Hello, everybody, and welcome to Music Industry Insights Worldwide. Today we have the lovely Emma Harding with us. Hi, Emma. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you for coming along today to share your story. We know you're in a different country, different time zone. I appreciate your expertise, your effort, and just keep doing the amazing work you do. Do you want to tell the listeners a little bit more about yourself, what you do, and where you're from?
Yeah, so I'm originally from London, so that confuses people when I say I'm from Canada, but I've been here for 20 years now, and I definitely call Canada home.
Lovely.
I've been teaching singers, well, I've been a voice coach for over 20 years now. I actually was at the London Music School there, and then as soon as we graduated, they hired me to coach their adult class. So
Yeah.
started teaching right then and there, and have loved it ever since. And things have just progressed and grown, and my studio's been doing well over here, and I'm thank you. And I'm just moving more and more passionately into the space of artist mental health and wellness because, as you know, this industry is hectic.
Yes.
Um, and just seeing firsthand how artists need support vocally as well as mentally too. So that's a really important thing for me right now. So
Well,
yeah,
thank
that's
you for
kind of
shining
where I am.
a light on that topic as well. I think that's really, really
Yeah.
important. And obviously, you've been doing this for quite a while now. Did you have a music education or was that more of a passion? How did that happen?
It all kind of stemmed from my dad was a musician, so our home growing up was a recording studio. So I literally grew up surrounded by it.
Yeah.
I desperately wanted to be a vet when I was a kid, but then I had a blood test and passed out and decided that was not the path for me.
Remember that? I actually wanted to do that.
So many people were like, I want to be a vet, and then yeah.
I know
Um,
it was, but I knew you had to get straight A's, and that wasn't me. I was more of a creative than the
yes, 100%. I was like, yeah, I'm feeling the music vibe more than the straight A vibe for sure.
I feel you on that one.
But yeah, I did do like the piano lessons and singing lessons and all of that as a kid, and it was interesting because back then they didn't really have like commercial music training or anything that was like music industry based. It was all Royal School of Music and all of that stuff, which didn't gel with me. So luckily I found the London Music School where we were allowed to be a bit more creative and have fun. So it all kind of stemmed from there.
I love that. So you did teaching to begin with, and then you've obviously diverted into the creative sphere for yourself. So how did that work, and how did you navigate that?
So when I was at LMS, I was that was actually working more from a creative side of things. It's really interesting. I started off was super passionate about being a singer, songwriter, artist, was touring, doing all of that stuff, but also teaching on the side to kind of fund the income because making money as a musician is
Not
not as
easy.
good as being a vet.
Right.
So yeah, I started teaching on the side, and then over the years, I've just realized my passion really lies being backstage or side stage and seeing other artists
Yeah.
just killing it on stage and
Yeah.
helping them step into that role. It brings me more joy than me actually being on stage. So it's been an interesting transition.
Very rewarding, shall we say? And
Yes,
your hard work paying off as well, and that support. Because I think,
absolutely.
a lot of artists need support. They need guidance. They need people that have already been through that
Mhm.
already to kind of pass the experience on and tell you how to develop and show you how the best ways forward are. So yeah, we really
Exactly.
appreciate that, and well done for doing that. And how did
Thank
you
you.
kind of navigate from London to Canada? What happened there?
It was wild, actually. I met someone at the Liverpool Institute for Performing Arts. I was doing a summer school there, and she was from Canada, and we just hit it off and were like really great friends at this summer school. And she'd visit me in England, I'd visit her in Canada, and then it's wild now. She actually lives over in Ireland, and I live in Canada. So yeah,
Places.
yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What barriers and issues have you found accessing music and entertainment along the way, like in your career and supporting other artists?
It's you know what, I've been very lucky. I come from a fairly privileged background where coming into this has been it's been challenging. As a female artist, it took me a long time to realize, you shouldn't be performing for 45 minutes or for 3 45-minute sets for a cheeseburger and a beer and the exposure of it. Like it's a big wake up call to realize what your value is and what your worth is. And I don't think we see that as a challenge when we're working our way up the ladder until we're like, hang
Well,
on, what have I been doing?
Bill, exactly. And that's the thing, isn't it? It's very tricky to navigate
Yes.
kind of, okay, do we do this for promo? Do we do this to get ourselves out there? Or do we try and do this for money? And I think that's
Yes.
where people with a passion really do shine because it is a passion. But then we
Hmm.
need to live and pay the bills, right?
100%. And being aware now that I've seen a lot of things sort of more, should we say, behind the curtain, and seeing the same gig and people being paid exponentially different amounts for doing the same gig, the same venue, the same amount of time and everything. And it infuriates me to no end that can happen and that people are doing that. So yeah, I'm always like, I warn the artists that I work with that, and I probably should warn you now. I'm like, you can probably tell, I get real fired up about it, and I'm like, hang on, we need to establish equality across the board here. Like, I love the industry in the sense that it's a little bit Wild West. It's a roller coaster. Even when you're at the top of your game, you don't know what's around the corner. But I do feel very passionately that things need to change with regards to, let's level things out, make things fair, make things real, and so that the big dogs aren't just the only ones making a living from it.
Right, Emma, and that's still happening today. There's a lot
Oh
of
yeah.
people, right, that's still trying to make it, that are pulling out all the strings to just
Hmm.
earn rather than getting paid. What would
Yeah.
your advice to those artists be?
Pardon?
What would your advice to those artists be right now?
I think it's really important to establish your own benchmark of what you need to make from a gig, and be aware of, like, okay, am I going to be performing in front of people who are going to literally change the trajectory of my career, in which case, go for the cheeseburger and the whatever. But if you're doing something and it's like, I'm playing my music, people are listening to me and they appreciate it, and you need to start establishing a way to be like, is this going to be paying the bills? And really stand up for yourself and advocate for yourself, and or find a community that's going to really support and advocate along with you. Like, that's what I'm all about with the artists I work with. We have all these WhatsApp chat groups, we have all of these, community building, where it's like, hey guys, I have this gig, do you think this is fair? And what's really interesting is majority of the men will be like, what? And the females will be like, oh well, I do it. And it's like,
Right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's not on as well. Like, because I see this massive indifference between males and females in the industry. Like,
mm,
shining a light now on the amount of percentage of female producers, songwriters, and performers.
yes, yes,
Right. And that's not really been talked about much, and up until now.
yes,
Like being a woman as well, and a lot of women don't always know their value, especially when you're making it in an industry where you don't actually figure out your worth. You're still figuring it out yourself. So
yes.
people that are still figuring out their value.
You've Surround yourself with people who are at the top of their game.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to surround yourself with people at the top of their game. And what I have found from these people is they are way more supportive, they're way more encouraging, because if they're at the top, they're not threatened. They got nothing to, they don't need care about you coming in the door and asking for advice. They want to support and lift you up. It's hanging around with people, around the bottom, who are just like fighting each other and elbowing to climb on top of each other. You've got to surround yourself with people at the top of the game, because they will show you what you're worth. They will encourage you to reach for what you're worth. And if you're with people who are not doing that, then you need to reframe.
And that's something I really love that you touched on earlier as well, is community. And
Mm.
part of a community where you feel seen, welcomed, heard, but also supported, which is really
Yes.
important, right? So how have you built your community for your artists and for your friends? And how did that work? How did you manage to do that?
It's been so amazing. It's during the pandemic was a big key factor. I was like, let's all just hop online this same time every week and just jam and play songs and show each other what we're working on and keep that momentum going. And also, I host a lot of retreats. So I've found that everyone who's ever attended the retreats, that they've immediately bonded and made great connections, great friendships, and really getting to know each other and share, the challenges. And I think that is really what bonds people. We have this immaculate forefront, or storefront almost, actually, on Instagram and social, where like life's great.
Yes.
And I think it's so important to build, you have your followers and you have your community there, but it's so important to have the nitty gritty behind the scenes. I'm having a meltdown day community that sees the real goings on.
Yeah, because we
Yeah.
do it on the facade, don't we, at times, and
Hmm.
social media for people to see, but they don't see what goes on behind the scenes. And I think
Exactly.
it's important that we do support each other and we build collaborations because, a lot of the music industry is very competitive. However,
Mhm.
I think the way forward is through collaboration and supporting each other. And,
Yes.
when someone's coming up, we're all coming up together because we're all supporting each
Yes.
other and bringing each other along with us, which I think is
Yes.
really beautiful, actually, and rewarding at the same time.
Absolutely. You can't do it by yourself. You cannot do it alone. You need, as you become more successful, you really need to build your team, and you need to build a brilliant team who support you, your dreams, your goals, and who are not just in it for the money, or reaping the benefits of your success. So finding your team is so important, but like you said, finding that community that's going to support you, and you can feel safe to share the
Yeah.
rough stuff.
And
And
trust.
that's gold. Yeah.
That's really, really.
Yeah.
What with your retreats? What do they involve? What?
So also, we have, I do different kinds of retreats for different levels, but like for example, recently we just did one in Nashville, and we worked on songwriting and performing, and I connect them with sort of high level songwriters. Yeah, so we've got the one coming up. We've got like award winning songwriters, like the Junos over here are kind of the equivalent to the Canadian Grammys, essentially. So we've got like Juno winning writers, and I have had like Grammy nominated writers involved, and they work one on one with the artists and just help them really dig into their craft, and put them in a space where within sort of like 1 week you'd basically elevate your career in what can take years. And again, it comes back to that community. It's like being in that space with publishers, and being in the space with songwriters and producers who can, you'll leave the retreat, but you'll have that phone number for the rest of your life, and be like, hey, I want to go record a demo and record my EP, or can you help me with some song, can you hook me up with another songwriter in Nashville so I can go work with them? Or so yeah, it's, again, it all comes down to community.
Yeah, I think that's super, super important. And I think sometimes we've forgotten that,
Yeah.
it's like a race sometimes when I look around and
Hmm.
so literally competing against each other rather than supporting each other and saying, do you know what? Let's work together. Let's support each other's work.
Yes.
It doesn't even matter if you're not in the same genre. You can always
Yeah.
do or of someone else's kind of version of your music,
Absolutely.
works for them and for you. So, and
Yes.
fan bases, I think that's really, really important, actually. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah.
And what's your thoughts and feelings at the moment on equality, diversity, and inclusion in the music industry?
It's really interesting, actually, because living in Calgary, it's very it's country music centric.
Yeah.
It's a very white, and it's really interesting because some of the artists that I work with are more into R&B and pop and all that stuff, and everything is like, okay, you got to move to Toronto. You got to move to Toronto. And so working at the moment to really build, again, there are some groups here that are doing really, really well to really elevate that side of things, and build more inclusion and diversity in that sense. So it's really nice to see that is growing over here. It's not a matter of like, okay, well, if I want to go and do this genre or this style, I got to go fit in somewhere else. So it's growing here.
Mm.
And being, I'm on the board of directors for Country Music Alberta, and we're really heavily focused on the DEI stuff, and making sure that like there's equality for, if there's a show, we're like trying our best to make sure that not only is like, if two guys are performing, there's two females performing. There's like, it's we're matching all of that kind of stuff,
Mm.
and making sure that there's equality, and everyone is seen where people show up for it, right? And trying to make sure that people feel comfortable and confident to show up for it, right? Providing a space where people feel safe and included.
Yeah, definitely very, very important. And it's
Yeah.
interesting that you say about location, because I'm originally from
Mhm.
Oxford in the UK. That's where I was
Right.
had to move
Okay.
in order to be where the music industry was.
Yes.
So, and I think that can also have a massive challenge for people that are trying to make it, that sometimes you've got family, you've got connections in a certain place. You might have to up
Yes.
and go to a different place in order to succeed. What's your advice on that? And do you think that that's still applicable for today?
I think I think it's I'm all about exploring.
Yeah.
And if it's something that you feel drawn to, and again, it comes back to that, feeling safe and inclusion and all of that stuff is like, if the space feels open, welcoming, inclusive, and you want to go explore it. It might be your place. Like, I never thought getting on the plane and coming to Calgary, Alberta, I would be a Canadian in.
It's a beautiful place to be, actually. Absolutely amazing. The people are great.
Yeah, it's wonderful. So I say go explore, and one thing someone said to me is you can always go back,
Well,
which
you don't want to do that, do you?
you don't necessarily want to do that.
Yeah,
But yeah, I say go explore, see who you can meet, see who can support you, and always don't be afraid when you do move into these spaces, like blank sheet it, and reach out again to the people who are at the top of the league in those areas. Don't be thinking I'm new here, I'm small here, I'm, go to the top.
and
Like,
so it does feel uncomfortable, and it can be a bit, time to get used to stuff. But once you're in the swing of things, a
yeah,
couple of people, it's so much easier.
yes,
Afraid to ask
yes.
a question is what I've always been taught, because that question, it might sound stupid to you, but to other
Mhm.
people, it's really beneficial as well. So everyone's learning, and
Absolutely.
a question to ask. You know,
Exactly. Yeah, yeah, totally. And joining associations as well. I used to think before I did training in artist management. They have so much amazing stuff here in Canada where you can learn and train in all these different things. I saw you had the guy from MMF, music managers. Yeah.
as well. We've got Daryl from DIT,
Yes, yes.
Canadians on here that I do actually am part of their networks as well.
Right.
Their
Right.
network,
So
yeah.
So we have a lot of really cool stuff here and a lot of support and funding for artists, but I highly recommend if you are moving to a new area and you feel like you do have to kind of leave where you're from, join associations and go to award shows, show up at things. Like, don't be afraid and think you don't belong. Just make yourself belong.
And you'll be surprised how much of this stuff is online as well now. So
Yes.
we practice MMF Canada, MMF
Yeah.
certain events around the world sat in my kitchen. Even now we're in Canada, I'm in London, and you
Yes.
do stuff as well internationally online, which actually
Absolutely.
up the world to a lot of opportunities and chances, right?
Absolutely. I love it. And I always used to be, when I traveled, I'd look up a voice coach and I'd be like, okay, who can I train with in this random area? Who is like the best coach to train with in this area? And now I'm just like, you go online and it's like, okay, who can I do a session with? Who can I train with? This will be fun.
Well done. And it's so nice to hear that, things are improving and changes are happening. Because sometimes
Yes.
I think they do happen, but they don't always happen quick enough. It's
No.
nice and I think that's super, super important. And what
Yes.
will improve in the next, say, 2 years in the music and entertainment industry?
I think just seeing more of it, more and faster, and I just want people to feel comfortable and confident. Like I said, I'm big on mental health right now, and I'm doing a bunch of courses on the effect of the music industry on people's mental health. It's a very stressful industry anyway.
Yes.
And to add on top of that, do I feel safe in this space? Do I feel included? Am I seen here? Like, I can't imagine. I really can't. Like,
And it's for
here's
everyone, isn't
yeah,
it? And I think sometimes it can really take a toll. If
yeah,
it's that self-care and that kind of support system around you, which I think
yeah,
is building for all the people that you work with, which is super
yeah.
fantastic. So keep doing that, please. I think.
Thank you. Yes, I will.
And do you think cultural and age differences have an impact on the amount of equality and inclusion that we can achieve at the moment? Because I think talk about, joining certain organizations and groups. And I've been in that situation before where everything costs money.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can't access certain things if you don't have the money or if you haven't paid the money. And sometimes
Mhm.
for free and you don't have the money in the first place and you're still paying the bills, it becomes
Yes.
very, very tight. So
Yeah.
it's also about navigating that and figuring that one out. So what would your advice be on that?
So I'm not sure how things are in the UK right now. But when I did go to London Music School, I was able to get funding for that. I would say research funding all the time. And things are changing so quickly with funding that if literally just set a calendar reminder to just Google funding for artists or fund and like take into account the diversity, equity, inclusion, all that, like research, put that in the title of who you are, what you're doing, and research funding for that and see what you can find. Because I know here in Canada, there's a lot of funding available for artists who are completely unaware of it. And that's a lot of stuff that I spend time with people on. It's like, let's just do a session and research what funding is available to you. And let's get you a membership with this, or let's get you going into the studio and recording. Let's get you doing this. And it could potentially be funded. It could be free.
Brilliant.
So I will say just go Google funding and see what you can find.
The government in Canada is supporting artists from the music industry. So, what kind of schemes are available to artists at the moment that they could access or look up or research? Is there any that you would recommend?
Yeah. You know what? PRS actually in the UK, I think, has some amazing resources. If you look up funding and grants on the PRS site, I know over here the equivalent of is SOCAN. They have funding. Factor is huge. I've literally just been helping a client this morning with funding for his new EP, and that's through Alberta Foundation for the Arts and also the Canadian Foundation for the Arts, I believe. But they're really there's so many opportunities, and it can range from marketing, recording, artist development, which would be training, singing lessons, photo shoots, branding, the whole
You
thing.
named it.
There's
Yeah,
so much out there, but
amazing.
we don't assume that there is. So if you're hearing this for the first time, then go explore the gold mine, because there are opportunities.
I know we have the same opportunities here in the UK, but I think there has been a lot of cuts. There's been a lot of change, chopping and
Hmm.
changing. The UK
Hmm.
government's just changed as well, so that's had a massive impact on who can apply and who can achieve funding
Right.
and stuff like that, because it has been quite political in certain aspects.
Right.
So that's had an impact. But it's really nice to see that progress is being made, and I know Canada has done an awful lot around equality, diversity, and inclusion on a world stage, on a global stage, and been one of the
Yes.
trendsetters actually in making sure that happens.
Yeah, yeah, no, it's been amazing to be part of this and see what's happening and what's changing, and seeing the opportunities for artists to be able to actually fulfill those goals and those dreams. Like incredibly talented artists that would be falling by the wayside and have to go back to that regular job,
Yeah.
can actually step into their spotlight and show people what they're capable of. So it's brilliant.
Awesome. And you've also got a lot of Indigenous communities over in Canada.
Yes,
How is that
yes.
working with the Indigenous communities? Are you seeing more representation, more visibility, more education around that as well?
Absolutely, yeah, we are, and people are doing a lot more. Not necessarily enough, but
Yeah.
there is a lot, and I like to see on every application form that I've ever kind of opened. It's like there are opportunities for that,
Yeah.
and just yeah, there's inclusion there for sure. But obviously, there's a lot of work to be done because it's you know, yeah, it's a bit of a mess.
What I find is quite funny here in the UK, we're very diverse, we're very multicultural, but not
Yes,
all of those cultures and not all of those diversities see eye to eye. And there is
yes,
conflict in some of those as well. Like certain people will accept certain groups, they won't accept others. Do you find
yeah.
the same in Canada as well? Or would you say
Oh,
it's a bit
I think that's everywhere for
right?
sure.
Okay.
I
I think it's
think
that.
yeah, there's a little bit of that everywhere for
So
sure.
what can we do about that to make sure that that doesn't always happen, or that resistance, because there's always going to be resistance to change and not everyone feels included or they feel comfortable with change. What advice would you give to those people that are a bit unsure about that?
Again, I think it's the community, the building a community, like have open conversations, reach out to people and start having these conversations, make friends, like start, it could be small, it could be a bigger community kind of thing, but I think just start building your network and just reach out to people and start building that community. And especially within music, we all have the same goal.
Yeah.
You know, we all want to share our stories, we all want to move people, we all want people to feel something, we all want to just make that connection, which
Yeah.
is wild that there is this challenge, because it's all about connection.
Yeah. That's so true. And some people struggle with connection, even in the music
Right.
industry. A lot of artists even struggle with connections, right?
Yes, yes. And that's maybe why that they've come into music and artistry, for a way to like to really share and express and communicate. So again, it ties back around to the mental health aspect of like really making sure you're taking good care of yourself. And especially if you do start to take off in the industry and those pressures build, and you have to do like be in front of people all the time, you have to do all the meet and greets, you have to do all of this, you know, you have to go
Yes.
and
Persona.
promote yourself, your brand, your everything, and that can be so hard for people. So yeah, building that connection. But those can be learned skills if they are something that really
And
is
resilient.
stressful, and you yeah,
And
exactly.
building that resilience towards it and understanding that this is part of the industry. It's not a personal thing, it's just actually how the industry operates at times. And not
Yes,
taking it personally, I think is really important. And being in the
absolutely.
music industry yourself, have you suffered from mental health? And if so, how has that affected your career?
Yeah, absolutely. No, there's been challenges along the way of you know, physical appearance. Like I had eating disorders for the whole time when I was an artist. I was never comfortable with who I was in my own skin.
Yeah.
And that's kind of residual now, to the point where it's like there's an award show coming up and it's like, oh, I've got to start living on celery, and I've got to, like, for people to take me seriously, I've got to look a certain way. And I you know, there's that side of things for sure. And then, you know, there's other elements where like people will, and me for sure, I will say this, I sometimes maybe have drank too much to get through a certain social situation or to deal with things. So alcoholism and drugs and all of that kind of stuff can be a really big problem. But personally for me, I think the biggest thing was like worrying about appearance and having to fit in a certain way.
Yes.
And I think on that note too, just looking at the way things are going right now. When I was a singer, it was like the 2000s, when it was all the super skinny Kate Moss thing, and it's coming back, which terrifies me.
Right. So you think that's going to have a massive impact on especially female performers?
Yeah, 100%, 100%.
And I do see that a lot actually, because a lot of people want to compare themselves to other people, or they want
Hmm.
this look that's, I sometimes I feel like I need to put on some weight. And then when I
Right.
feel like I need to be a bit skinnier again, and
Yeah, yeah.
that dysphoria myself. So I totally understand, sometimes how it must feel, especially for women in the music industry. And then you get sexualized and objectified at the same time as just
Right.
on the stage, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Balance your authenticity with public demands. So all of
That's just it. That is just it. Yeah.
and
It's very challenging.
how did you manage all that?
You know what? How did I manage all of that? I, I kind of fed into it. I went along with it. I wasn't healthy, I
Yeah,
think. And then at the end of the day, it was just like, you know what? Why am I doing this? This is, yeah,
yeah,
this,
you end up literally destroying yourself,
yeah,
basically. So
yeah.
sad. And I
No,
think,
like literally, I had meetings with producers and labels and stuff where one guy literally was grabbing me and saying, no, you got to lose this, you got to lose that, and spinning me around and grabbing me.
it's out of order. That's totally
And
unacceptable.
it's like, if that had happened today, this guy would probably be locked up. So,
But it's just not right that you've had to go through this in order for it to be what it is now. So you've had
mm.
a long run in order for
Yeah,
today, in order for them
yeah,
to be slightly more accommodated, which is
right,
of you. And thank you for just keeping on with that. But did
right.
you use techniques? Because I do a lot of affirmation, I do a lot of prayer, I do a lot of meditation.
Yeah.
Do you find any tools or techniques that worked or helped you?
I mean, being a voice coach, I'm always leaning into breath work.
That,
So a lot of breathing techniques. And then, yeah, I guess I also got into, working out a lot, which also got me the results I wanted. I'd feel good. I'd feel stronger. And that was kind of in that I've got to get back into it now, because I do like feeling strong. I like feeling like my body is capable of things. I like that feeling. And then obviously the physical benefits are great, but that's where I come from it now. Whereas before it was like, I've got to lose weight, got to lose weight. But now I enjoy working out. It feels good and I feel strong and
Good on
all of
you.
that.
Good on you. And you've touched on a little bit of this already with discrimination stigma. Have you
Mm.
suffered from discrimination because you're a woman, or stigma, because you're doing something or you're trying to change the mold or break the mold of how it used to be?
It's interesting in the sense that there obviously have been times when you'll be in a very male dominated space, and you feel like, okay, shut up, you're just the girl, whatever, and you're working right. But some of the most supportive people on my journey have been male leaders in the industry, which has been really lovely. And it's also been quite surprising when some of the most competitive catty ones have been the women. So it's, I've seen from both sides.
Who actually, in different various different bits and pieces that I've done, sometimes I find men are more supportive to other men, but then I find women are not always as supporters to other women. There's a bit more
Yeah.
in there, which is
Yes.
sad,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
It really is.
I would hope that changes soon, and I'm sure it will.
Yeah.
It needs more
Yeah.
time. I think, once everything settles down and more women are starting to be seen and heard, that starts to.
Yeah. I think that will come with it. I think when there's more space at the top for women, maybe some will stop fighting for it.
I think women have had to fight to get to where they are. And
Yeah.
it hasn't been
Yeah.
given, and I
Yeah.
think part of it, isn't it? And it's about accepting that everyone
Yeah.
does equally, and women have always been underrepresented, always. So they
Exactly.
as well. So I really support that, and I hope
Yeah.
things do get better, because I'm sure they will. I'm sure.
Yes.
So
Yes. Yes.
I have another 5 minutes left, Emma. How
Okay.
could one connect with you if they want to connect with you on social media? They want to reach out. They want to find out more about the work that you do. How could they do that?
Yeah, so I'm more active on Instagram, and it's Rocket Vocal Studios, and that's ROCKIT Vocal Studios. But I have my website, rocketvocalstudios.com, as well, and the podcast, which is the Rock Your Voice podcast too, which has lots of voice training, industry stuff, and conversations similar to this. So
Well,
yeah, lots of ways to reach out.
I'll leave those in the link below as well. And is there any major wins or successes that you would like to share with us before you go?
Every major win for me has been seeing my clients succeed.
Yeah.
That is what I see as a major win for me. That when I'm in the back of a room and like the whole venue is filled up and lit up and everyone's just loving what's going on stage and the artist is feeling good. That for me is a major win. Being able to work with artists like that is a major win, and being able to support them in the growth, because when it hits and things go far, like things go fast when it hits. So being able to support artists through that is a big win for me.
Well, it's been absolutely amazing speaking to you. It's been
You
a
too.
pleasure. I've learned so much, and I hope to find out more. I'm going to do a bit of research myself.
Yay.
The great work that you do, and let's please do keep in touch. And
Absolutely.
if you do for you, Emma, please do just shout out. Give me a
Yeah, same, same.
thank you so much.
Awesome. So great to chat with you. You
Thanks.
take care. Bye.